Hey, Sarah, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi. Okay, thanks for joining me. Is the other person here? How was your thing? I wish I could have seen it, but
It was good. I ended a little bit early. But I feel like anytime I present for a time that's not 1 hour, it just throws me off. I can't do it. Like I was saying, I ended a little early.
That's all right. That whole time thing's all right.
Okay, let's wait a time for questions.
I heard really good things about yours. So there you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just helping.
That was good.
Set up. Here's the presenter.
Hey there, Corinne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. I'm glad we were able to get a spot for you to do this. It's awesome.
Yeah, for having me.
Yeah. Hey, Christine. How are you?
Good. Okay. So she has to share her screen, right?
Mm-hmm. We have to press the IP button first. So click out of this.
Okay. Go ahead. You do it. Okay.
Press what? Yeah, I know. I'm just getting everything in the screen. That I'll probably need, you know?
Okay. Right now they can't see that, though. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. Or we need to plug the solder in.
What? You want the other switches then?
No, we need to plug the solder in.
The solder? Okay.
The solder one, right? Should we now?
I would wait.
Okay. Do you know where the solder is?
Which one did you want?
The one in the tube, because it was easiest. If it went fastest.
Here it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sure. Okay, do you want to?
Okay.
Corinne, you're going to share yourself on the screen or you're going to share slides? What's the plan?
We're going to share slides and then I'm going to be in the corner. And then a little halfway through the presentation, I'm going to be sharing the IPVO camera, which is a different camera too.
Cool. And you feel like you got that all squared? I feel like you guys got this locked down.
We practiced.
It sounded really like well planned, like you had it. So I don't feel very worried about you guys all of a sudden.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to let you sort and then I'm going to jump on one of the other ones to make sure everybody's okay.
Okay.
I'll be back. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to shut my camera off for a second.
Okay.
Share screen.
All right. Yeah, now it should work.
Where's the IP?
Where's the IP though?
Oh, share computer sound.
Computer sound. Hold on, we've got to get the IP though. Wait 1 second. We're going to open it again. Just leave it like that. Now we'll go like this.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
And you don't want to share the screen. You want to share this.
Yes.
Share computer sound. Ugh, I hate that.
You didn't share it.
It's so annoying. Okay, can you see that, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. Need to present. Move this down. Present right there. Because we're not presenting the other way. No, we're not doing it that way.
Why not?
Because that's the one with the notes.
No, it's not. It's the same thing.
No, it is. This is the present. When I do that with that becomes notes.
Okay, so now you have to do Control-Shift-C.
Control-Shift-C.
At the same time. Okay, now you can talk.
Hello?
Okay, good.
Oh, okay. That's
awesome.
Great. Okay.
All right, I'm going to leave her alone. Bye, Sarah. Do you know that Sarah lives in Ithaca? She's
oh,
the
that's so
technology
cool.
Yes,
specialist.
yeah, so we're going to start the Ithaca chapter of JerichoAdaptsToys eventually.
We will also name it JerichoAdaptsToys.
Maybe.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
Oops. We're starting at 3.
Okay. I'm starting at 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Now, if you want it, you know, you can mute if you want.
Yeah.
So
Corinne, this is a good sign. I see the slides and I see you and I see it all ready to go.
Yes.
Awesome. I knew you would have it all under control. I was not worried.
Thank you.
Plus you had Sarah in here to just give you moral support.
Yeah.
How could it go wrong?
You know, Christine texted me about logging in as a presenter, and I said, actually, I don't know, and I'm presenting in half an hour.
It's perfect. Instead of trying to make all you guys co-presenters, we just said leave it open and we'll watch the sessions and make sure nothing bad goes down. So that was our plan.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
It worked. So I think we'll be okay. All right, so you guys are good. I'm gonna go. I'm still missing a presenter in one room, so I'm gonna go figure that out.
Okay.
I'll still be floating around.
Okay. Okay, so 5 minutes is out.
Did you get your needle and thread ready?
Yes, it's right here.
Oh, you have another needle and thread sticking out of the ear.
No, I don't. This is just some thread.
No, there's a needle on it.
So it's not on the ear. It was on the what's it called?
Oh,
The
okay.
computer. Okay. I'm gonna put this right to the side.
Okay, I have to log in now. It's gonna
Okay, so we're gonna start in a minute, but if you want to just like get your notepad down or a voice memo, but this is going to be recorded anyway, so if you want to look back on it, you always can. But we're just about to start. So I'm very excited, and I hope all of you guys are too, on how to switch adapt a toy and learning about the organization that I run called JerichoAdaptsToys. Okay, and if anyone has any questions, you guys can write that in the chat, and then we'll answer that as fast as we can. So this could be anytime throughout the presentation, whether that's adapting or during the slides. If you have any questions at all, just write it in the chat, or you could always email me, but my email will be at the end of the presentation. Okay, so we are going to start. This is how to switch adapt a toy, and my name is Corinne Dicpinigaitis, and I am the CEO of JerichoAdaptsToys. So our overview and goals for the day. We're going to be going over who am I, what are switch adapted toys, an overview of switch adapted toys, a live tutorial, and what is JerichoAdaptsToys, and how to start your own organization. So who am I? Well, my name is Corinne Dicpinigaitis. I am a junior at Jericho Senior High School in Jericho, New York, and I'm the CEO of JerichoAdaptsToys, an amazing organization, which I will be explaining in the next slide. And I volunteered over 100 hours to work with children with disabilities and complex bodies. Some of the places that I volunteered was Horseability, which is a horse ranch right next to my house, where we teach children with disabilities how to ride horses. We have hippotherapy there, and it's really amazing to be able to volunteer for that organization. I have volunteered at I Can Bike Camp, which is a week-long camp where we teach children with complex bodies how to ride a bike. And by the end of the week, they need no assistance whatsoever, and they can ride completely and 100% on their own. And I've also shadowed my mother, Christine Bowden, who is a speech-language pathologist, and she specializes in augmentative communication. And I shadow her when she's on her lessons sometimes. So I'm really, really lucky to be able to do that. So JerichoAdaptsToys, this is an organization that I run. It was established in 2018 by my older brother, Michael Dicpinigaitis. He is now attending Cornell University as a freshman, so I've taken over in his leave of absence. So if you've heard this name before, it was established in 2018. So we have a free rotating lending library. Basically, that means we have 5 or more toys, depending on which school and how big the school is, that rotates around every 1 to 2 months between the 7+ schools and programs. We work with programs all over the Long Island and New York City region. We also do presentations and adapting sessions. So if you need an adapting session, maybe for your school, and you want to teach, the teachers how to adapt the toys, you can contact me, and we can try to work that out. And we do presentations like this. We lend a multitude of toys and 3D printed switches and other assistive technology solutions. So we do toys such as like plush toys, like what I'm going to be showing you today. Our organization does have a 3D printer. So we do 3D print some switches. Here's what they look like. They're really great. And we donate these as well. And it goes every 1 to 2 months, depending on how big the school is and how many toys or switches they need. So we have adapted over 100 toys and 3D printed switches, and we're still going. So that is really amazing. And I hope it really does continue for a long time. So here are some more photos. These are some photos of children using our switch adapted toys, and me and the team going to I Hope Academy in New York City to teach the staff how to switch adapt toys. So this is how you can help the cause. Well, there are so many ways, and we have an Etsy shop where we sell our switch adapted toys, and all the profit that we make from that, goes right into JerichoAdaptsToys. We also have a GoFundMe, which I have all the links right here, and it's also on our website, JerichoAdaptsToys, if you need these links again. So our GoFundMe, that's, I think, the best way to donate, because we are trying to make it a nonprofit right now. So we need to raise a good sum of money in order to do that. So a GoFundMe, any donation would help, any amount. If you know anyone who would be willing to donate, please, get this name out there, because it's a really special organization. We also have an Amazon wish list where we have different things that could be used for the organization, such as different toys, new soldering kits, or switches. And our website is down here if you need any other information. So here's some more adaptation beyond just plush. This is a Beepo robot down on the bottom. I'm not going to be adapting this today. Instead, I'm going to be adapting a toy that looks like this. This is a regular plush toy, but these are really popular. And if you do want to adapt these, there is this amazing website called Husky Adapt, which I have the link to right here. And it's basically a slides presentation showing you with before and after photos of how to adapt a multitude of different toys. And they have all the materials you're going to need. So where can you get battery operated toys? I know that battery operated toys can be extremely expensive. This Beepo robot that you saw in the last slide, that is also on your right, this can cost upwards of $45 new. And I understand that's a lot for a toy, especially if you want to get a lot of different toys to switch adapt. You can't pay $45 for every single toy. So if you want to get them new, you can get them from Amazon, Target, really, or any local toy stores. They usually have these. But if you want to get them gently used, which is what JerichoAdaptsToys does, and if you want to start your own organization, I do recommend getting a lot of gently used toys to make a big inventory. You can go to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and eBay, just to name a few. The Beepos on your left, on your right, are from Facebook Marketplace, and as you see, it's $6 to $10 range, which is a big difference from $45, especially if you want to make a big inventory of 100+ toys. You also should look at the Husky Adapt link for which toys to purchase, because not all toys are switch adaptable. So if you're thinking, I want to get this toy, is it switch adaptable? Look at the Husky Adapt link, because then it'll also show you how to adapt that toy. So what does switch accessible mean? Well, switch accessible basically means electrically modified wires to allow a port for a bigger switch to plug into. So down here, you see a dog. It is now switch accessible. It has wires coming out of it. That means that the plug on the ear will work, and now a bigger button will also work. Here is it being soldered in the middle, and on the right-hand side, you see a little boy using a switch to control his new little truck that is now switch adapted. So he is clearly enjoying that. So let's switch adapt to toys. So here are the materials that you're going to need. I have hyperlinks to all of these. So you're going to need a soldering kit. Well, you're obviously going to need a battery operated plush toy. This is what mine looks like. And these are great because they have a lot of different types of places to adapt. You're going to need a soldering kit. You can get this from Amazon. It basically includes the wand and the solder itself. A sewing kit just so that you can sew it shut. A 6-foot stereo extension cable, but you don't need to have 6 feet. You can have shorter than that, but it needs to be a female-male extension cable. So you need a wire cutter or wire stripper, such as the one shown here. These are, you can also use scissors, but I do recommend this. It's just easier. You're gonna need some electrical tape. You could use another tape, but I do recommend electrical just so that the current doesn't get messed up. A screwdriver and adjustable helping hands are optional, but I do recommend adjustable helping hands because it will hold your wires in place while you're soldering, just so nothing gets messed up the first time. And a screwdriver in case you want to open the back of the toy to take out the batteries. But I usually just turn the toy off before it starts. So this is the process. Here are some schematics on the left-hand side showing a toy wiring prior to adaptation. And on the right-hand side, it shows the schematic and now it's adapted. So as you see, we have 2 wires going across. This is just what it looks like. The battery represents the battery from the inside of the toy, and this little button right here represents the switch on the paw. So this is where the current runs through to basically activate this toy. Now, when we adapt, we basically cut the wires and put them back together, but adding a new switch by twisting the copper from the inside of the wires, soldering that, and now it's really just put back together, but you just added something else, which is this new switch. So this basically means that the button will work, but also the new button for the new switch. So let's go adapt. If you have any questions and you're still a little confused, we have the full video on JerichoAdaptsToys that you can look at after the presentation if you want. You can also put any comments in the chat box below. So give me a minute while I just I need to share my screen to my new camera where I can show you how to adapt. So here we go. This is the toy I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be using this hand right here. We have our solder, basically everything we need is here. And here are the schematics, which I'll just keep here for the time being. I might move them out of the way later on though, just so we can have more room for the other things that are necessary. So what you're going to want to do first is take your toy and feel around where you need to have it adapted. So this is the button I'm going to be using. Let me show you what it looks like before we start and how it'll turn on. See, it's working just as if a normal toy would work. Okay, so on here I have already adapted this and I haven't sewn it up yet because I just want to show you guys what it looks like. So as you see, we have these two wires coming out of the toy, like in the schematic shown. But as you see, it's been cut and adapted with a new wire coming from the extension cord. And here's the tape. So this is really what we're going to be doing. So take the place where you're going to adapt, feel around. You're going to feel the cords in there, and this is where you need to take this and put this in here and just basically rip it. This is a seam ripper, so you're going to rip right above where you feel the wire coming out of the toy. Make sure it's a nice clean rip because you are going to be sewing this later. So you don't want to have all this jagged ripping, it'll just be harder for you. You don't really need to rip it a lot, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be ripping a fair amount. Just take out a little bit of the toy. Don't be afraid to kind of pull it out. And these are the wires that we're going to use. But as you see in the schematic, it's shown 2 wires and this just looks like 1. This is 2 wires, they're just kind of put together. So take your seam ripper, place that right through the middle. Place that right through the middle and just kind of pull it a little bit so it makes a good dent like this. It's a good middle. Take your 2 fingers and you're just gonna pull this apart. Make sure that it really stays in the middle because you don't want to have the copper showing just yet because that could really mess up the toy. There we go. So that's a good amount, I would say. Now it's showing 2 different wires. So we're going to put this to the side right now because we are going to be using the female-male stereo extension cable. So just take this out of your packaging. We got ours from Amazon. Now this is a stereo extension cable, which basically has 3 wires in it, but I will show you that in a bit. So this comes with the male part and the female part. We're only going to need this part, basically the part with nothing coming out of it. When you get used to switch adapting, you're really only going to need like 3 inches, but for demonstration purposes, and if this is your first time, we're going to use a bit more. So I would say 5 inches would be a good length. 5-6 inches. This is a good length. Take your wire cutters, and we're just going to cut right through. Don't be afraid to cut it. This is what you're supposed to do. Now, with the male part, we're going to be putting that away. We're not going to need that. Now, with this, take your wire cutters, or if you have wire strippers, this would also be easy. Or if you have tough fingernails, you could just take them right in and pull it out. But my fingernails are kind of brittle, so I use wire cutters to do this. As you get used to it, you're only going to need to do this much. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using quite a lot of wire. So basically, just pulse it with your wire cutter until it starts to make a good dent. You don't want to cut the wires from the inside, but you do want to make a dent on the black outside. Now, just pull it up. As you see, you can already see the wires from the inside. Take your 2 fingernails, pinch them together, pull up. And now we have all of our wires showing. Now, this is a stereo extension cable, which means that it is 3. I know some of you guys do have a mono jack, and that basically only has these two, the red and the yellow, and these are the ones we're going to need. But the stereo ones are just easier to find for us, so we just get these. Basically, if you have it, you're going to see the white wire as well. You're not going to need this white wire, so we can just take our wire cutters and cut it off. Put this away. We're not going to need this again. Now, the red and the yellow are the only two that we're going to need. Take your wire cutters, and we're basically going to be stripping these, just as how we did for the black cable. Just pulse it. A good amount is probably, you know, I'm just using this for demonstration purposes, but as you get used to it, you're going to be making it smaller and smaller. So just pulse it until you get a good dent in there. Kind of pick at it a little bit until you start to see the wire coming out of it. Take your 2 fingernails, pinch it together, and pull up. And look at that. Now we have our copper exposed. We're going to be doing the same thing to the red side. Get a good amount in there. Just pulse it with your wire cutters. Start to pick at it with your fingernails. If it doesn't go right away, I like to just pulse it a little bit more with my wire cutters. Remember, if you do have strong fingernails, you could honestly skip this step. Or if you just have wire strippers, it'll be an easy up and go kind of thing. So now that we kind of see the copper exposed, take your fingernails, pull up, and here we have all the copper exposed from the inside. Put the excess away, and we're going to be keeping this away. We are going to use this later, so keep it in a safe place. I'm just putting mine to the side, and I'm going to be taking my toy back now. So this is where we're going to be starting. It looks like this right now, basically, right? It looks just like this. Now we are going to be adapting it. So we're going to be doing a one at a time kind of thing. We're not going to be doing them both together. We are going to be taking our wire cutters. Make sure if you do have hands, keep them really close, because we're going to be using them in just a few seconds. Now, take your wire cutters, and we're only going to need to do one at a time. It doesn't matter which one you do yet, because we're going to be using them both. So take this and just cut it right down the middle. Don't be afraid to make that cut. So with part of it, we're going to be holding onto it with the wire hands. And with the other part, we are going to be stripping it. So take your wire cutters or strippers, and we're going to be doing the same exact thing we did just a moment before. Just pulse out a little bit until you get a good dent in there. Pick at it a little bit. And if it doesn't go up right away, that means that you just need to pulse it a little bit more. So just a good amount. Get it all around. There we go. And now I just pulled it up with my fingernails, and now you see the copper has been exposed. Just keep that to the side. We're not going to need that just yet. Take your other wire, and we are going to be doing the same thing. We're just going to pulse it a little bit. There we go. See, I just pulled up and now the copper has been exposed. Now, we are going to be keeping that to the side right now. And we are going to be taking back what we just did with the extension cable. It doesn't matter which one we're going to use because we are going to end up using them both. So take these two that we just did and one of these. It doesn't matter if you use the red side or the yellow side first. I'm just going to use the red, but it'll happen either way. But basically take all of these wires that you just stripped and just twist them all together. Make sure these are nice and tight because you don't want to ruin the connection. If one wire is out of place, it can really ruin the whole connection. So make sure they're nice and tight and compacted. There we go. You see how they're all together. All the copper has been twisted together. Now, in order just to secure that connection, we are going to be taking our solder and our solder wand. This is going to be kind of the fun part of adapting, in my opinion. This is my favorite part. So take your solder and your solder wand. Be careful not to put this too close to the toy because this will burn a hole through it. And don't put it really near anything of value or your skin because this is super duper hot. It's melting metal. It can really, really burn you. The solder will melt relatively quite easily, and you're going to want to make sure a good amount of metal is around the copper. Kind of make sure it kind of goes down a little bit. There we go. You see that? This is a good amount where it kind of looks like a bubble a little bit, just a bubble of, there we go. That's perfect. So put your solder back into its little solder case. Put this to the side. And now we are going to be doing the other side. So this is all soldered up, right? We're not going to need this right now. But we are going to be adapting this side. So take out the wire that you didn't adapt yet. Take your wire cutters, cut right through the middle. There we go. Take out one of them, just for now. If you have your hands, maybe you want to use them just to hold these in place. Be careful with the wire, this yellow one here that has its copper exposed already, because you don't want the copper to fall off the wire or it to be, cut off by accident. Take the wire that you don't have on the hands, and we're going to be pulsing it and stripping it. So take your wire cutters, get a good amount of copper to be shown, and just pulse it a little bit. If you accidentally cut it, you can just go further down. It doesn't really matter. Just go a little further down, just act as if it's a new wire. So if you accidentally cut it, it's not the end. Okay. I'm going to pulse it a little bit longer. Now, if you have scissors, you're also going to want to be doing a pulsating kind of method because you don't want to cut the wire off yet. There we go. Sometimes it can take a little while, but that's fine because the outcome will always be the same. So now we have our wire exposed, our copper exposed. Do you see that? Just a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see with the white. You have that copper exposed now. So keep that in place. And we are going to be using the second part, the part that we didn't use before. We are going to be stripping this. This is really the last wire that we are going to be stripping for the day. So basically take your wire cutters, give it a nice, good dent. Remember, if you accidentally cut it, just go further down the wire. And we're going to be taking our fingernails, pinching up, and now we have our copper exposed. So now we have all three of our coppers exposed that we haven't soldered yet. You see 1, 2, 3. Let me show you with this 1, 2, 3. And these are basically all the ones with no metal on it. Put them all together. Give them a nice good twist, a really good tight one, because you want all the copper to be in this. You don't want any loose copper. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to just like go down and make it like a little smaller, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. You could keep it in one position, but I like doing this to kind of just make sure you have all the pieces intact. Make sure it's nice and tight. That's what we're going to need. Take your solder and your solder wand, and we are going to be basically doing exactly what we did for this one. Now, smoke is normal. If you're like freaking out, don't, because it's completely normal for the soldering to kind of start smoking when it's been touched by the metal. There we go. I'm just going to add a little bit more to the one that we just did. I just want to make sure that everything will be soldered correctly. If you like see one of the wires like not part of it, that might be a problem. So you're going to need to resolder that. You really want to make sure you have all the wires together and really covered in this metal. No, maybe put it all around, get a nice 360 of that. And while it cools a little bit, you can look around, see if you have the parts soldered, see if there's any parts you think would be needing a more solder. You see on the back here, I see a little bit of wire, copper exposed, and I want to have a little more wire, a little more solder in there. Here we go. See, that looks good. Now, what we are going to be doing, you can turn your solder off because we are not going to need it again, and it's going to get really hot. You can let go, if you have it clamped onto your hands, you can let go of that clamp hand. And what I like to do right now, just so that we don't put everything together and then it ends up not working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the toy and just kind of take a switch. You can use any switch with a male part, just like this one I have here. Here's the switch. Here's the cord to it. We're just going to plug these cords into each other. Okay. Turn on your toy. My turn on is from the back. Okay, let's see. Look at that, see, it's turning it on. There we go. But look, you can work it from the hand and from the buttons. Isn't that amazing? Now we're going to unplug your button, and we're going to turn this toy off just for now because we don't want it to really be interrupting us while we just finish up. So take your electrical tape. Mine has already been pre-cut just for the purposes of the demonstration, but just cut your electrical tape. This is what mine looks like. I got it, you can get it from the dollar store, Home Depot, wherever. This is very important. So just make sure you take a nice close look into this. Take your electrical tape, and do you see how I have some wire down here that isn't covered in the solder? That's okay, but what we need to do is we need to make sure these wires don't touch, because if they touch, it's going to trigger the toy to turn on without even touching the button, and then this whole thing was worth nothing. So take your tape, and if it's over like the wires themselves, that's okay. And I'm just going to resolder one part. I just really want to make sure that it's in there. Okay. I'm basically just going to take my solder. And since I have a lot of metal on here anyways, it's okay because I'm just going to kind of melt this metal down. Or if you do really want to, you can take the metal that you haven't used yet from your solder kit that I have plugged into our adaptation process. Melt this down. I'm just going to put it on. There we go. Because I was starting to feel, as I was putting tape on it, it wasn't soldered as well as I wanted it to. The solder I felt started to come off, and I didn't want to risk anything. So I think a good portion of that now is resoldered back on there. If your solder falls off of the wire, because the wire is a little slippery for the solder, just resolder it, and then you can always pick off the metal parts on the toy a little later. There we go. You don't want to have too much solder on there because you don't want it to get too heavy where it falls off, but a good amount where it seems the parts that need to be soldered are on there. There we go. We just see again with the button, we just want to double check. Okay, plug your switch in. There we see. See? All right, it's still working. So nothing really got messed up. I just wanted to be 100% sure. And if this happens, just put them back together and tightly wrap around. Now, take your electrical tape. You're gonna wanna wait for this to cool off a little bit. And then take that tape and just tie it all around. Make sure you do not see how on this one that I just did, I don't see any, I see no wire coming out of here, nothing. You don't see any, do you see any copper? There's no copper, and that is exactly what we want. If you see any copper, even the slightest bit, take another piece of electrical tape and just wrap that around. 2 electrical tape, it doesn't hurt. And if anything, it might just be better. Take your other one, all the way around. We don't want any copper exposed. See, it kind of just fell off because of the stuffing. and it happens, just take another piece of electrical tape. You know, this is very cheap, and put that together. I'm just going to do one more, just in case, you know, we always better safe than sorry. The electrical tape around. Make sure it's nice, taped up. And there we go. Do you see that? There's no copper showing anymore. All the copper has been soldered away inside the electrical tape. So now these pieces won't touch. Make sure your solder's turned off if you returned it back on to just fine tune things. Just stick those electrical tapes really tightly together, and we're gonna put those back into the toy. So now what we're going to be doing is, this is very important because it is important so that when the toy is being used, the new wire does not get taken out. Tie a knot with your wire, and this is going to be important right now. So I already pre-threaded my needle. You can thread your needle now. Basically, you're going to take your needle and thread, go through the loop, you see that? And go into the toy. Oh. There we go. Okay, put it through that loop and into the toy. And this is just going to make sure that nothing ever really happens, that it never gets taken out by accident when it's used. It's never pulled out of the toy when it's in use with the child. So as we see, that's good. You can just stick the rest of it inside the toy. And now we're going to be sewing the toy back up. So I like to start from the corner. It's a little difficult to see just because I made a big, I ripped a lot of the toy just for demonstration purposes. And just sew the toy, take where it was before. And just make sure that's nice and sewed in. You're going to go from one side to the next. One side to the next. Okay, see, pulling on it, nothing's coming out. That's a good thing. Now we are going to be closing it up. Basically, do one round, take your needle out, and just as if you were putting it back, you're going to make a little loop with your thread and with the needle. Kind of just put it back through that loop. If you run out of thread, you can always go back in with more thread. Just make sure you close it up. There we go. Make sure that's nice and tight so the thread will not close. Will be all closed up. You see, it looks like there has never been a ripped seam. Pull that nice and tight. Take some scissors. I think you can also do wire cutters if you only have wire cutters, but just take your scissors and there we go, all cut off. Now it looks like a toy. This is some solder that just fell off. You can just pull that off if you want to. It doesn't really matter if you have it on or not. It'll probably happen. So take your take your switch that you have and your two different parts, plug them in, turn on the toy. What? And it will work after you press your switch. So now I'm going to continue on with my presentation, and we are going to exit this screen. And I'm going to reshare my screen with here. Okay, so now that we finished this, we want to continue going on. So why would you switch adapt toys? Well, there's many different reasons on why you would do this. Number one, it encourages independent play. This is really important for kids because they have had to work by themselves really rarely. They usually have to need children with complex bodies. They're going to need an aid to do a lot of things. So this is independent play. It demonstrates cause and effect relationships. If you press the button, the toy is going to turn on, and this is very important for later in life. Multiple toys for an engaging, fun learning environment. So these toys can, already adapted toys can go upwards of $100, and that's very, very pricey. So if you have a bunch of cheap toys that you can get from Facebook Marketplace, adapt them, then you can have many different toys for a really, really fun, engaging. All these toys are going to do different things, and the kid's going to want to come back and really learn. You can learn switch access, which is needed to access an augmented communication device. This is where the switch will be plugged into the communication device, and it will scan the words and the phrases that the child would want to use. So it would go, I'm hungry. If the child is not hungry, they won't press that switch. Then it'll scan to the next one. I'm thirsty. If the child is thirsty, they're going to press that switch with their most mobile part of their body, and you have now accessed a communication device that is now switch adapted. The same thing with the computer. It also works. It works with the keys. It'll scan the letters, and whichever letter the child wants to press, they will press with their switch. Learn switch access, which are needed to access environmental controls. This includes turning on and off lights. This is a video of a man using a switch adapted device for gaming. I'm not going to be showing this today, but if you want to look back on it, there is the link right here. And he's using Xbox, which is a really, really complex device. So he's using that with switches near his head. He's also using that with switches near his feet and legs. And it basically accesses a different part of the person that he's playing as. So how to start your own organization like JerichoAdaptsToys. So just start with one toy. You need one to start. You can't start with none. So you have to just get at least a toy, learn how to adapt it, and then you can really start from there. So save some money by purchasing used toys. If you want to get a big inventory like JerichoAdaptsToys has, you're going to want to have a lot of toys. And then you need to get them for cheap, which is on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay. Get in contact with schools and programs around you. Don't be afraid to reach out. Find out who their director is and just send them an email talking about your organization. Get volunteers. High school students are really great. They're always willing to help. It's a great project for outside of school. Doesn't matter where you get your volunteers. You get high school students, college grads, college students, anyone would be willing to help. But get some volunteers who are willing to make it work. Be organized. Have a spreadsheet of all your toys and where you're going with them and who you're bringing them to. Make sure that you have organized and you keep in contact with the schools as you're lending out toys. Accept donation for materials. Have a donation fund at your local school or your local church. This is fantastic. You can get these plush toys, money for your soldering, different sewing needles and threads. You can really get a lot. Just accept those materials and reach out to different places. So thank you so much for coming to this learning how to switch adapt a toy and learning about JerichoAdaptsToys. If you have any questions or comments whatsoever, if you are a little confused on anything or you're a little more curious, you can contact me at JerichoAdaptsToys@gmail.com, or my personal email is CorinneBowden5@gmail.com, and either one of those we will try to answer you as fast as we possibly can. Remember, we do have a website, JerichoAdaptsToys.org, if you want to look that up. That has all the information that you're going to need, along with the GoFundMe, Etsy page, and Amazon wish list. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a If there's any questions, you can really quickly put those in the chat box. But other than that, thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so thankful that I was able to teach you guys how to adapt these toys. Oh, thank you. And also, my brother, he is in Ithaca right now, and they are trying to do something where a Jericho Adapts Toys will become an Ithaca Adapts Toys up there. So maybe it can really become a statewide thing, and that's amazing. Start with one toy. Thank you guys so much for coming. Just email me any questions, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys so much. If anyone has any questions, I'm still on just to answer a few of those really quickly before you guys have to go to the other meetings that are presented today. If anyone has any other questions, I'm still online. You could either say them out loud or you can just write them in the chat box. So I'm gonna log off now, but thank you guys so much for joining me and how to adapt a toy. And I hope to see you at another presentation that I will do in the future and have so much fun at today's presentations. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.